some time ago, we were offering an analogy about how you offer a thought, and as you offer that thought or that vibration, it has attraction power, and it will attract to it other things that are like it. Like is attracted. And we said that if you're standing in your moment in time and you are offering what feels like a valid commentary on something, state of the world or the state of your physical body or a state of relationship or a personality trait that you've noticed in another, as you offer that vibration, and we began using the word spew because we wanted you to feel the spewing of it, the offering of it outward, because we wanted you to get the sense of the way it moves out beyond you and affects everything that you walk into for a while. So as you're offering negative comments about your financial state of being, you keep sort of muddying up the waters ahead of you and making it less possible for you to see with any clarity the things that could work out for you. You're muddying up your own water, so to speak. And that if you would stop doing that, the water would clear. And then the other night, Esther was eager to watch that big cap tighten down on the gushing oil in the Gulf. And as she sat there and saw for the first time in a very long time that well no longer offering that oil, Esther remembered this analogy that now it has stopped. The feeling of it dissipating and becoming a non-subject is understandable, isn't it? As long as it was still spewing, it was like you couldn't clean it up fast enough. You couldn't begin to clean it up until it stopped spewing. There just weren't enough boats on the planet or enough hoses on the planet or enough containment on the planet. It was just messing the water up faster than anyone could clean it up. And that's what you sometimes do with your negative comments, with your negative beliefs. As they keep coming, you just keep messing up the water. And if you would stop the commentary, it is our promise to you that the natural resources that surround you would clear it. And in that clarity, you will return to who you really are. It's one of the best real-time analogies that has come along for a while. Because you can feel that in your own experience. Have you ever had a relationship and you just keep it stirred up? In other words, every time you think of it, you just get mad all over again. And almost as soon as you think of it, you start talking about it, and then you start remembering, and then other things like it start showing up in your experience, and you think, will I ever be rid of this? Is that negative experience going to follow me? Is it going to dog me all the days of my life? And we say, not as soon as you stop talking about it. Not as soon as you stop thinking about it. Have you ever had, some have, some haven't, men and women both, mostly men, but it happens, a fist fight with someone? Well, they deserved it. We all know they deserved it. But you came to that point where you were actually came to physical blows. But there was a point before you threw that punch that if you had held back from it, it would have been better. It would have been better before your nose was broken, wouldn't it? It would have been better before they put you in jail, wouldn't it? In other words, wouldn't have holding back been better, even though it didn't seem like it in the moment? Thinking back on it, wouldn't have holding back have been better? Have you ever had an argument with someone where you were so right and they thought they were so right, and you were determined to make them understand your rightness, and they were determined to make you understand their rightness, and so you just argued and argued and argued and argued until there was hardly any life left in either one of you? And they didn't understand you, did they? Wouldn't it have been better if you had just held back before you crossed that sensitive line? And so in the same way of holding back from the punches and holding back from the argument, we want you to consider the true power in even stopping earlier in this spewing process, in the setting the tone of what's out there process. We want you to think in terms of what you are vibrationally setting yourself up to be the point of attraction of, because what's active in your vibration is your point of attraction. One day a woman argued with us about that. She said, Abraham, I was driving down a very busy freeway, and just to prove her point to us about how positive she was and how screwy law of attraction was, she said, and I was listening to one of your recordings at the time. Doesn't get any more positive than that. I was listening to your recording, and I was pulled over by a police officer and given a ticket. And we said, what was the ticket for? And she said, not wearing a seatbelt. And we said, what do you think about that? And she said, I think it's absurd. I don't think I should have to wear my seatbelt. I think I was born into the land of the free and the home of the brave, and I think I should be able to be brave enough and free enough to drive around without my seatbelt on. I don't think it's anybody else's business whether I wear a seatbelt or not. I don't know what he thought he was doing, pulling me over. I wasn't causing anyone. She got quite animated quite fast. And it became quite evident that even though she was listening to one of our recordings, she had something unresolved percolating there in her vibrational pattern. And that it's not possible for her to be driving on the freeway without belligerently and rebelliously not wearing her seatbelt. She wasn't just nonchalantly and uncaringly and whimsically not wearing her seatbelt. She was defiantly not wearing her seatbelt. And we said, you were driving along, sending a beam out of the roof of your car that said, pick me, pick me, pick me, pick me. You want trouble, I'll give you trouble. And here's this policeman. He is actually in a much better state of mind than she was. He was out trolling for revenue. And they were a perfect vibrational match for one another. Law of attraction brought them together in the precise way that law of attraction always does. It was perfect co-creation. Co-creation at its very best, really. So what we want to say to you, you hear it. We want you to gather from all of that you are offering signals all the time. And sometimes your signal matches with unwanted things. And sometimes your signal matches with wanted things. And when the signal that you're offering really resonates with the wholeness of who you are, you feel wonderful. But even more important, well, there is nothing more important than feeling wonderful, but even more evident is manifestations have to match that signal of alignment. They just have to. You can't get something unwanted when you are tuned in, tapped in, turned on with who you are. You just can't. Now, she wanted us to believe that. I was listening to a good feeling recording. We said, that's like putting a happy face sticker on your empty gas gauge just because it bothers you to see the tank empty. Now you've got a happy face sticker on it. It's not so troublesome, but it won't keep you from running out of gas. So then we say to you, and if you've been listening to us for a while, and some of you have, we've been spewing processes for years and years and years and years. Processes to help you release resistance and move closer to alignment with who you are. What we really want you to hear in these hours that we are together today is that there is an easier approach than any of you have been applying. And that easier approach is that it's much easier to wake up in the absence of oil gushing into your Gulf and not gush any than it is to pull it back after the fact. It's much easier to awaken in the morning in the vortex because you went to sleep in the vortex. And then from your in the vortex state of being to maintain your alignment rather than try to reclaim it after the fact. What we are getting at is that this vortex is calling you. And when you are in despair, you can't hear the call. If you're hanging around in an attitude of hope, the vortex will take you in and show you something to make you believe. But it's not the easiest thing in the world to move from despair into revenge, into anger, into overwhelmment and frustration, into hope, into joy, because all of those habits of vibration also are attracting to you other things that you're having to deal with on a pretty regular basis. You get what we're talking about? In other words, you can decide every day that you're going to think positive thoughts, but you're going to attract pretty close to where you have been because you don't shift your vibration all at once. But what we want to show you is that as you find yourself from time to time in a moment of very slight or no resistance, that's the time that you want to really put the steam on for compounding and remembering and milking the vibrational frequency of the vortex. In other words, do your work when it's easier to do it rather than when it's harder. We've been saying this to you for a while. You come to these gatherings, and often you want to come to visit with us about something, and you bring the issue that's been bothering you the most, and that's what you want to talk about. And that's the time that you're least likely to hear us, because that's where you're the most off from what you really want. So this message really is about starting with the easy things first and letting the universe show you how a feeling of ease brings manifestation, and then work yourself more and more into those things that you really want. Once you show yourself that this universe is responsive to your vibration, and once you show yourself that you have deliberate creative control of your vibration, which means you can control your vibration. But we're going to give you a very heavy duty thought here to think about, and then we'll smooth the corners off of it after you've responded to it. We want you to understand that while you do have the ability to control your vibration, but you do not really have the ability to control your thought. Now, technically that's not accurate, because thought and vibration are one and the same. But if you will decide that you're going to control your vibration, which means you're going to work at it from an emotional standpoint rather than a thinking standpoint, you'll make much more progress. Are you sort of following us? It's like it's easier to find the feeling of love than it is to love that person, that particular scoundrel. That particular scoundrel is, well, everyone agrees, rotten, really bad and rotten. But it's easier to find the emotion of love than it is to love that person. It's the general alignment rather than the specific alignment. You're following? So if you reach for the feeling of alignment, have you ever had the experience where for no good reason you just felt happy for a moment? Yesterday, Jerry awakened Esther from an afternoon luxurious nap. And he had stumbled across a song on the internet that was so exhilarating to him, it made him weep. And he listened to it with his headphones on over and 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 over again until he could not stand not to wake Esther up. And then he couldn't wait for her to hear it, and she felt the same way about it. In other words, it took them into the stratosphere in terms of alignment with who they are. Now, sometimes you just stumble across those things. Law of attraction is always the reason for the stumbling. But when you find yourself in a moment in time where you've just caught the glimpse of a child's face or a dog's face, or you've just heard something come through your internet or through your radio, or you remembered something blissful. In other words, there are those moments where you just catch a glimpse of them, and what they are, it's when your resistance is down. Now, hear us. It's when your guard is down. When your guard is down, the vortex will suck you in. Now, most of you come to your senses immediately and run right back out because you didn't mean to let your guard down. You have yourself sort of poised to prevent problems and to wrestle things to the ground and to take care of things and to be responsible. But every now and again, you'll just be in a moment where you will be drifting, where you're not focused upon something that is holding you out of the vortex, and the vortex will take you in. And that's what we want you. That is your assignment. We usually don't offer assignments, but this is your assignment. Over the next few days, watch for those moments when the vortex is having its way with you for a moment, and then do everything in your power to rest there, to stay there, to delay it, to milk it longer. In other words, in the same way that Jerry and Esther, we're not kidding you, they listened to that song dozens of times. It felt too good to let it go.